Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Jack Hagel. The North Carolina Democratic Party has taken it on the chin over the past year. Democrats had an abysmal showing in the 2022 midterm elections, and then they lost Democratic Governor Roy Cooper's veto power when a Democratic lawmaker defected to the GOP. So what are Democrats doing about it? WRAL state government reporter Paul Specht is here to tell us. Paul, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you've been following this saga for a while now. Take us back a few months to right after the election. There was a lot of discontent in the state party, right?
Yes, a lot of Democrats in North Carolina for years obviously have seen this as a purple state, one that is a swing state, one they can win, one where there is a populace that can deliver them victories. And yet, in the midterm elections, while other swing states like Wisconsin were able to push back against Republican advances and even win some state Supreme Court cases, if I remember correctly, they came up short in North Carolina. They lost every state Supreme Court race here. They didn't win any significant statewide race at all, in fact. And that includes the U.S. Senate race where Sherry Beasley, longtime judge, former Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court, lost to Congressman Ted Budd, who's a Republican and now one of North Carolina's senators. So that showing happens. People get really angry within the party, and they say, we have got to do something. We are supposed to be winning more. We are supposed to have this base that at least delivers us statewide victories like we did in 2020 with Josh Stein as Attorney General and Governor Cooper, who won it previously in 2016 as well. Both of them did, actually. So we're going to make some changes. And that happened first and foremost in the North Carolina Democratic Party organization. There was a vote in February. A big shakeup happened where 73-year-old former legislator Bobby Richardson, chairwoman, was ousted and replaced with 25-year-old Anderson Clayton, a community organizer from Person County. And this is a big deal. She was young. Her resume is short, but she spoke in a way that sort of represented obviously a majority of disgruntled Democrats on their executive committee, and they said, all right, we believe in you even more than we believe in the current chair and the establishment figures like Cooper and Stein and others backing Richardson. And so that was a big deal. That was the first shakeup where they said, our current strategy isn't working. We want someone new in there.
So fast forward to today. On the face of it, politically, it's not much better.
Right. Democrats didn't win many key races in November, but one thing they did do was prevent Republicans from gaining a supermajority that would allow them to override Governor Cooper's vetoes. Well, that went away unexpectedly and abruptly in April when Tricia Cotham, a longtime Democrat who actually comes from a Democratic family in the Mecklenburg County area, decided to switch parties. It gave Republicans the control that they had coveted and failed to reach during the elections. And so it represented a huge swing in power.
And it was a messy breakup, too.
Oh, it was a messy breakup. She held a press conference and said things about her disagreements with Cooper and with House Democrats and claimed they mistreated her. The allegations that they are either dismiss or deny. And so since then, Republicans passed an abortion bill that restricts most abortions after the 12th week of pregnancy instead of the 20th. And they're also pursuing other bills related to school vouchers, allowing rich families to access taxpayer money so that they could send their kids to private school. It was previously just open to poorer and middle class families. Now it would be open to richer families if the bill gets all the way through. And there are also other bills related to transgender North Carolinians and so on. So as far as power goes, Democrats have less of it now than they did back in January when they got to the legislature. And Anderson Clayton, who entered office as chair of the North Carolina party, she not much she can do about it other than go to the media and go to Democratic constituents, including in Cotham's home county of Mecklenburg, and talk about how their power was stolen from them. I think people forget Roy Cooper was elected governor with 51% of the vote in 2020. And now, because of Cotham Switch and the other election results, his power is, almost completely diminished.
Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the state Democratic Party's recovery efforts and what's ahead for the 2024 elections. Stick around. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. We're talking with WRAL state government reporter Paul Specht about the North Carolina Democratic Party's efforts to remain relevant in a GOP-controlled state. Paul, you mentioned Anderson Clayton. She's been everywhere, all over national media, and you spent some time with her last week. Tell us about her and what she represents for the future of the party.
Right. Well, she's a fascinating person in that she has so much responsibility at such a young age. That's one reason she's been profiled by the New York Times and places like Teen Vogue. And for her, she told us, she's going to accept that opportunity to talk to them because it opens a door to a new audience, one that she says has been underutilized in recent years. I believe it's millennials and Gen Z are just now occupy a large swath of the electorate that can be tapped into and potentially used to their advantage and for bigger wins. And so she wants to do that. She's 25 years old. She's from Person County. She helped add Democrats to the Roxborough local boards, and otherwise was the Democratic Party's chair of the county party chairmen, if that makes sense. But there are 100 counties in North Carolina. The Democratic Party, I believe, has a presence in all 100, and then she was the person that the county party chair people spoke to about their concerns about the state party. She had that interesting perspective from that perch, if you will, that enabled her to campaign on this idea of, hey, we have people who want to elect Democrats. We are not properly using our resources, and the state is not doing a good enough job of coordinating with the local people. And that's why the executive committee gave her the responsibility it did. They said, okay, we've seen your wins in rural North Carolina, someplace that we've been losing for a long time. And we see that you have connections to all these county chairmen across the state and chairwomen. And if you've heard her speak, she's pretty good at messaging, especially for someone that hasn't been doing it that long. And so she's a really interesting person. And Democrats are also taking a big risk. I mean, this could be, depending on how things go next year, either seen as a brilliant move or one that's a big risk.
Now, you report that she and other Democrats are seeing almost a silver lining in losing this veto power that you mentioned earlier in the legislature. But tell us about that.
Well, I called her and I called other Democrats this past week and just asked, how are you feeling after the disappointing election results, and then having the rug taken out from under you and with Cotham leaving the party and giving Republicans a supermajority, what do you think about to get out of bed every day? Are you depressed? Are people sitting around depressed? Are they, is it woe is me all over again? Are they feeling hopeless? And you know what? I got the opposite reaction. She said, no, this is not the same as November. In November it was depressing and we were sad. We are angry. She said, people don't have any problem getting out of bed. They are furious. Something was taken from us. And now the Republican majority, supermajority, is passing things that we don't think they should be, even allowed to pass. Obviously they have the numbers now. It's all legal, but Democrats certainly feel like this was stolen from them. And that in a state where Roy Cooper was elected with 51% of the vote, this new supermajority is passing a very conservative agenda.
Now, I spoke with your colleague Will Dorn about how Cooper is changing his tactics. How does he figure into the broader Democratic strategy going forward?
Well, he is likely. Would I be mistaken to say he's probably the most popular Democrat in North Carolina since Jim Hunt? I mean, I personally, that's my opinion. I would say there was Jim Hunt, and then there's been Roy Cooper, and if I remember correctly, he's never lost a race, and so he's this person that a lot of people know, and he can win elections at the same time as Donald Trump. Donald Trump won this state in 2016 and 2020, the same year when Roy Cooper won this state. And he's on his way out because he's term limited, but his voice is powerful because he's been here forever, because people know him. He is the governor, and he kind of looks and sounds like Andy Griffith too. Let's not discount that. He's from Eastern North Carolina. People look at him and say, he's from here. And going back to Anderson Clayton too, that's one thing people said is she looks and sounds. If you ever hear Anderson Clayton talk, she sounds like she's from North Carolina. And so what they're doing is taking as many media requests for interviews as possible. They're trying to get out there. And, our colleague Will Doran wrote about Roy Cooper going to elementary schools and sitting on the ground and telling them about how art class might be taken away. And so there's no audience. They'll take any audience they can get to talk about what Republicans are doing.
Elections are perplexing in North Carolina. There are more Democrats than Republicans in the state, but then there are more unaffiliated voters than Democrats. How can either party plan when there are so many question marks in the electorate?
Well, Republicans have an advantage here because they have the lawmakers and the numbers needed to draw the maps, to draw the legislative maps, to draw the congressional maps. So they can draw those maps to their advantage if they want to, just like if Democrats were in the same position, they could draw the maps to their advantage. So there is some predictability on that side where they're going to be protected. I feel safe in assuming and anticipating that later this year people expect them to redraw the map. So, but in terms of statewide elections, you can look to the suburbs to ultimately decide how much power the Democrats will get in the coming years, right? Because you can redistrict, you can quote unquote gerrymander, all these different things, but at the end of the day, there are too many Democrats in North Carolina for them not to be relevant. And where we find the most relevant Democrats the past few election cycles have been in the suburbs of Charlotte, like Union County and Johnston County and Durham County, and around here, even Orange County and so on, where, places that for a long time were ruby red, like Johnston County, are now having people move to Clayton, make it a little more liberal. Those are the people I think to watch in the next elections.
So get your crystal ball out and add up everything we've discussed. Will Democrats make any kind of comeback in 2024, or will Republicans strengthen power?
First, it depends on the map they roll out for the legislature and Congress. Secondly, it depends on voters in these suburban areas, like I just mentioned, like in Clayton and like in Southern Wake County and Holly Springs. Do they feel like this Republican legislature has gone too far with the 12-week abortion ban, with this plan, not enacted yet, to allow rich people access to taxpayer funds for private schools? I don't know. I am not a political strategist, so I don't know what is considered too far for them. And I also don't know if they will be able to break through the rhetoric at the highest levels, which, next year's a presidential election year. You're going to see, of course, political ads about these local issues at the state house, and you're going to see political ads about the governor's race. But man, President Biden and his record is going to be front and center, and then along with things that either President Trump has done or Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has done, or whoever the Republican candidate is, that's what people expect to drive turnout. And so it's really hard to predict whether these local state issues are going to break through and make a difference in how people vote.
Well, I know you'll be keeping close tabs on it. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
That's WRAL state government reporter Paul Specht for his in-depth reporting on the struggles of the state Democratic Party and its efforts to recover. Visit nccapital.com. I'm Jack Hagel. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.